In the case of Operation Defensive Shield, notice that if that's used as an example, then the lobby argument is in a serious self-contradiction. Walton Mearsheimer, as you point out, tried to claim that Israel drove the United States to the Iraq War on the side. That's completely contradicted even by their own evidence. But suppose we accept it as true. The logic that you outlined is that the lobby the lobby harmed U.S. interests by forcing the U.S. to accept the Jenin operations, even though it was undermining support for going to war with Iraq. Well, you can't have both positions. Either the lobby drove us to the war with Iraq, or the lobby harmed the effort to go to the war with Iraq, but not both. So I don't think that example shows much, and in fact I don't know of any evidence that the U.S. cared one way or another whether Israel smashed up Jenin. As far as the, just one factual comment, as far as the scale of the lobby, in the sense that you correctly define it, in political science terms, money, membership, that sort of thing, that's been analyzed in detail by Stephen Zunis, and I advise you to look at it. And it turns out it's one of the smaller lobbies. It's dwarfed. I mean, it's totally dwarfed by the business lobbies, which are totally overwhelming, and even by things like the lawyers' lobby or the real estate agents' lobby and so on. I mean, it's influential, but it's influential, I think, largely because, as you say, it conforms mostly to U.S. policy. I don't consider the cases that you mentioned very. Let's take the George Bush 1 case, which is an interesting one, which is seriously misunderstood. That's the other example that's standardly given for the power of the lobby. George Bush #1 and his Secretary of State, James Baker, took the most extreme position against the Palestinians and support of Israeli expansion of any president. But they did it in secret, so they weren't getting any lobby support or pressure for it. I mean, we now know, because actually the documents were known, but they were kept quiet. They took the position. They supported the coalition, the Israeli coalition government position, the Shimon Peres, Yitzhak Shamir position, that there can be, I'm quoting it now, no additional Palestinian state between the Jordan and the sea, meaning there already is a Palestinian state, namely Jordan, and there can't be an additional Palestinian state. And the fate of the territories, they said, has to be implemented in accord with the wishes of the government of Israel. That was endorsed in what was called the Baker Plan, the December 1989 Baker Plan, which endorsed exactly that position. That's the harshest position, anti-Palestinian position, that's been taken by any American president. That was George Bush, the first. No lobby pressure. The lobby probably didn't know about it. But yeah, that's the position they took. However, there's another point that should be made. Let's take this abstract discussion, which personally I find distasteful, about which factor in policy, which of the many factors in policy that almost always coincide has more weight. And let's ask, does it have any practical consequences, how the discussion turns out? Okay, so suppose we decide with Walton Mearsheimer that in cases, that there are cases of serious concern to, powerful American interests where the U.S. backs off because of the lobby. Well, if that's true, there is a consequence, a tactical consequence. One consequence, for me, it would be terrific. I could stop writing books, I could stop writing articles, stop giving talks all over the place, stop getting vilified, nothing. All I'd have to do, or you'd have to do, or anyone else concerned with the problem would have to do, is put on our ties and jackets, go to the corporate headquarters of Lockheed Martin, Intel, Hewlett-Packard, Microsoft, Warren Buffett, ExxonMobil, and so on, and politely explain to them that their interests are being harmed by a lobby that they can put out of business in 30 seconds with their political clout and economic force. Okay? Game's over. We've won. Does anybody do it? I mean, does anybody even bother to laugh? Well, no. Yeah. I mean, it's laughable. If the few being interested looking out for themselves didn't like what was happening, they'd do something about it. And what they're doing about it is investing in Israel. Not under pressure of the Christian evangelicals or AIPAC, but because they find it useful to have a powerful state, most powerful state in the region, actually with military forces that are more, with air and armored forces that are larger and technologically more advanced than any NATO power, let alone the region outside the U.S., and that is totally subordinate to the United States. Israel made a decision a long time ago that it would sacrifice security for expansion, which makes it totally subordinate to the United States, has to do what the U.S. wants, very loyal, performs any task that's wanted, right on the periphery of the major oil-producing regions. The tyrannies who run the oil producers really don't mind, as long as they can control their own populations. So it's a system that works for the interests of the few big interests who look out for themselves. And we see it in their behavior. If we think they're being misled, well, we should explain it to them so that they'll change their behavior and put the lobby out of business.